This is what happens when your dowel jig meets the concrete floor. The floor wins. But I'll file that off. Luckily it's not a real critical component, and that the face that it registers off of is still flat, so that's good. So I'm just setting up for my last 3 dowels here. One thing I wanted to show you about these dowels is that they have a tapered end on them, so that as the glue, when you put the glue in and it reaches the bottom of the hole, it's going to naturally force it out all sides and up the flutes here to the top. And you can see that when I hammer them down, you can see the glue that's pushed up by that action. Let me get that focus here. There we go. So you can see how the glue is just pushed all up around the dowel. So it's instead of using a hardware type dowel that's smooth, I mean, you can do it, but this just gives you that and it gives you that action to push the glue up, and it also relieves that hydraulic action where if you're trying to push it through all that glue, it's going to be darn near impossible. Okay, I'm going to let these set up. Lots of trimming and sanding in my future. Cutting the tops for these legs and then figuring out where I'm going to go from there. Okay, a couple of tidbits of information, because I had a little mini heart attack here just a minute ago. When I cut these, I used this inside dimension according to the plan and ran the tapers, but what I didn't think about was I lengthened it as well, adding about 5 inches to the total length of the wedge. So two things happen. You essentially lengthen the board because you cut this angle, so you make this stand proud. No big deal, I'll trim that off. But what you also do is, by lengthening the board, is you make it wider. And this board at the top is about, or this leg is just under 11 inches. And when I went to measure the opening that it's going to be placed into, it's 11 3/8. So I was okay. I'm like, I can calm down now again. But that's one thing to consider. So like I said, this thing is I guess it might be better to do it this way. I'd call it 11 inches at the top. So I have 3/8 of an inch to play with. And that's good. So it'll be fine. But I got everything else all squared up here. All the dowels are done. Down here, I can show you. So these three are in. And then these are in and flushed. Everything is flushed up now. So it's looking good. I'm going to take them down and start working on those tops. Well, and trimming. I also have to trim these. So I'll figure out some kind of a setup to do that. I think it's going to be pretty easy to do, but we'll see. Getting ready to trim the wedges flush with the side panel tops. Don't throw your wedges away. They come in handy here. So this is the setup I have. I got it set to my, or clamped to my sliding table. I'd probably do the same thing with a miter square, but I've got it clamped here, and I got a festool clamp on the end, and the wedge is in the middle here. Keeping that edge parallel to the blade. So I'll move the camera over to the other side so you can see this better when I cut this, but I think this is going to work out slick. darn near perfect. Just a little hand planing and I'll get that flushed right up. That worked out pretty slick. I'll get the other one up here and do the same thing. Okay, well that worked out pretty slick. Got them flushed up. Just a very little hand planing. But the one thing I wanted to show you was down inside here. What they recommend doing. See if I can get that thing set up. There. So these are the feet I glued in on the bottom. And they recommend that you put reinforcing blocks along these three sides. You know, being I have mine doweled in there, I'm kind of thinking I'll be okay, but I may put a glue block on this side. It's not going anywhere. I mean, this thing's built like a tank. That glue, and I just talked myself out of it. So it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. So that's what the inside looks like. In those blocks, they're going to go the leg levelers. So I have to. What I have to do is make this piece here that goes just inside of this, and that is how the table is going to attach to the legs. So you do have to run glue blocks on the inside of this, and I'll do that, and then figure a piece of plywood dropped into this as well. So that's my next step. Okay, after cutting my tapers on both ends here, this is 4 degrees and so is the other, so it forms that wedge. I got a pretty nice fit here, just a couple of light taps I can get that flush. So I just need to cut it to length, and to do that I have to reset up my sliding table, put my fence back on there, and I'll sneak up on that. These cuts here took me about, I don't know, 3 or 4 passes each piece after I made the initial 4-degree cut. 3 or 4 passes to kind of sneak up on this, and I want it to be just a little bit wide so that I can tap it in there, because if it's too narrow it'll drop in. So we'll make the square cuts and see if we can get a nice fit here. Okay, after some careful cutting, we got a nice snug fit here. There with some glue, that'll be beautiful. That micro adjusting stop that I have came in real handy. You know, cutting these to length.